Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now in this video we're going to talk about, it's more about bringing through consciousness work, the way that we look at sustaining energy, and especially in regards to eating food. Okay, so this is also in alignment and connection with diet, with nutrition, but also with consciousness work. And this is coming from a place, I guess, I was once a nurse working in a medical field, so it comes from medical knowledge, but also a big follower and a nutritionally trained healer as well, looking at supplementation, nutrition, not to only just prevent illness, but reverse illness, but also from a perspective as currently a quantum healer, where we look at the origin and the root of everything in regards to reality. And we're going to bring all those together to look at this. So this is exciting. So one thing I must say from a consciousness perspective and from a quantum perspective is our true identity is as we are infinite consciousness. So what does that mean? Consciousness means energy. So if our origin of who we are, our true identity of who we are, is infinite energy, why do we have an epidemic as the human of people saying they lack energy? I'm lethargic. I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I am tired. Yeah, it's an important question to ask. We're going to get into that. Now, when we look at energy and infinite energy, which infinite means there's no beginning, no end, right? Energy just transforms from one form to another. So if we look at, if you believe in the human lifetime, right? There's a birth and then there's a death. So it's a lifespan or a life cycle or a lifetime. And we look at, the thing that, if we are infinite, right, is we have a number of lifetimes. We have one lifetime that ends, we get transformed into creating another lifetime. We begin that cycle again, okay? So we get transformed, right? So on that basis, the core of you, the origin, the root of you, is not extinguished, even though we died, or that cycle of death, right? That's why a lot of people talk about, death is just a program. It's not real. Okay, from the human perspective, it's real, but from the perspective of your true identity as infinite consciousness, it's not, because you're infinite. Okay. So, again, that whole thing about what's right, what's wrong, or that's a duality thing, right? So we try and remove ourselves from that. So let's come back to, again, as I said, this epidemic, right, of lack of energy, lethargy, chronic fatigue syndrome. Now, a lot of that comes from programming and conditioning. When we're born into this lifetime, other than probably the first 2 or 3 years of our life, we are then conditioned and programmed for the rest of it. Okay, we're kind of sold a world. This is how you need to think. This is how you need to see things to become successful or be liked or whatever, right? And a big mentality of that is the word lack itself. That is a mentality, is lack. Okay? And out of that mentality, we are immediately put in a place or a state that we realize that everything that we need to survive is external to us. It's not within, it's external to us. So you can see how that connects to, I need to be sustained, I need to eat food, I need all these things, right? So we're led astray through conditioning and programming. Now, that whole purpose of conditioning and programming, which we call duality, is to disconnect you from that true identity, as I said, as infinite consciousness. So therefore, aren't connected to that reservoir of infinite energy that you can dial into or connect to at any time. So hence you are reliant on all these external sources of sustenance. Okay? So the biggest sustenance of energy we are conditioned and programmed to think that we need is food. Okay? Is food. Okay? So when we're young, we're about to go to school. What are we told? You need to have a breakfast. You need to eat in the morning. You need to get your breakfast. You need sustenance for the rest of your day. Okay? So that's droned into us. That's conditioned into us, right? So therefore, as an adult, because of that conditioning, we take what we learnt as a child and we carry it with us for the rest of our life, right, as an adult, is that if we have a health problem, the number one thing first is to go and see a doctor. Okay? Because again, that's conditioning and programming as well, because as children, we read books, right, that we learn about numbers, we learn about shapes, but after that we learn about, the common norms is, if I get sick or I hurt something, I put a plaster on it, I go and see a doctor. It's not going to see an acupuncturist, it's not going to see a chiropractor, it's not going to see an energy healer, it's going to see a doctor. So therefore that's why that's our primary choice of when we're sick, as an adult, we go to a doctor. Conditioning programming, right? Okay. But outside of that, 95% of people will choose to, okay, what am I going to do? Is to look at my diet. Okay, what do I need to change in my diet? Do I need to go on a diet? Right? Again, based on that, biggest sustenance of energy is food. Again, conditioning. So the big question then is, okay, what are we trying to get from food? What we call the nutritional world, okay, is we're again told that we need macronutrients, so carbohydrates, fats, proteins, and obviously the building blocks of that, right? Protein, amino acids, fats, fatty acids, carbohydrates, sugars, and so on, and different types of sugars. Micronutrients, right? Magnesium, calcium, iron, all those sorts of things, right? So they're what we are looking in food, okay? Obviously, other things we're looking for food is pleasure and all these other things that come along with it, right? But what about the process of then getting those nutrients from the food, which we call digestion, okay? So it's our body's ability to then break it down and then absorb those nutrients in the food. So we put it down one end of the tube, which we call the digestive system. It comes out the other end of the tube, right? So one important aspect there is to note is that our body does not hold on to food. We put food down one end and it comes out the other. Okay, so the body is just wanting the nutrients. That's all it wants. But the nutrients aren't physical, so to speak, because food goes in one end and it goes out the other. Okay, so just keep that in mind in your awareness. So a lot of the times we've been conditioned and programmed to think, okay, it's a particular food that's not good for us. But really, a lot of the times that's not the case. It's more of our ability to digest that food, which then comes into our relationship we have with our food. But we'll get there. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here. So when we're breaking down the food, then absorbing the nutrients, where do those nutrients go, right? They go through the wall of the digestive tract into the bloodstream, so therefore the bloodstream can then circulate the nutrients around the body where it's required, where it's needed. Okay, that's what we're told. But what's the core of the basis of every nutrient? It's energy. Okay, so therefore what our body requires, if we look at ourselves as a body, as a human, as a physical body, is that we wanted the nutrients out of the food, but the nutrients is really energy. Okay, so we want the energy out of the food. So again, as I say, a sustenance of energy. Okay. Now lately, for a wee while now, I guess, my higher aspects of myself, like within session work here at Truly Holistic, if we find that somebody needs magnesium, right, that's a micronutrient, we intend the frequencies of magnesium. We don't just go magnesium, we go magnesium frequencies or frequencies of magnesium, because it really wants to differentiate that magnesium. Because we like to slap labels on everything as a human, right? We call it magnesium, okay? It's a mineral, it's a supplement, it's as I say, a micronutrient. But magnesium is just a few frequencies, like on that full spectrum of frequencies that we're looking for. That's why we call something like a multivitamin. Because when we look at a multivitamin, right, you look in the bottle and you see all the different vitamins and different minerals. It's trying to create a spectrum, all those nutrients that you're told that the body requires. Well, what you should really replace that and see that as is it's a spectrum of frequencies. And on this dial of this aspect of frequencies is magnesium. A bit like the old radio station. You dial into a radio station and you start to hear that radio station. It's a little bit crackly, but you're dialing into it until you get right on that specific frequency and then you can hear it clearly. Same thing. Same principle. Okay? So, what I'm going to talk about now is I created a system called the broadcasting system. Okay? It's one of the healing systems I teach people. Okay? You get like a chart. I teach you how to become more intuitive, like with a pendulum or dowsing rods or muscle testing. And it teaches you to, instead of taking the oral supplement or reliant on buying massive amounts of superfoods and medicinal herbs that cost a fortune, come from all the corners of the globe, is you replace that with an intention that brings the frequencies, the origin of that particular thing. Okay? So all you need to do is write that thing on an intention note. And then you use a device called the sun ring as a broadcaster of those frequencies. So for example, let's say you want magnesium. You write magnesium or magnesium frequencies on an intention note, place it in the ring, place a glass of water on here or a plate of food, and then it will broadcast those frequencies into the food or into the water. So then when you consume that food or water, then you're taking in magnesium. Or let's say you want to put magnesium in a certain area of the body. Let's say you wanted to put it into your shoulder, intention of magnesium, or using the verbal intention of magnesium while you have the ring on that location. So therefore it places it into the body. Okay? So again, it's trying to get to this core root of these things: supplements, nutrients, minerals, food. And you just removing the middleman and just absorbing the energy equivalent, which is the origin of it, which is frequency, energy. Okay. Now, the only thing that will be stopping that process occurring for you is your own limiting beliefs. That's all. Because what we believe becomes part of your reality, or part of your awareness, and therefore materializes as part of your reality. That's how reality works. Okay. So within this broadcasting system, you can broadcast minerals, as I say, micronutrients, superfoods, cacao, goji berry, all aloe vera, coconut oil, hemp oil, you name it. You can use all of that. Okay. You can program crystals if you're a crystal lover and you've got crystals around the house. Crystals are great because they emit a frequency. They are a specific frequency for that specific crystal. Again, like a spectrum of frequencies, like we use with with minerals and supplements, right? That analogy before. But the great way of using crystals is programming crystal, putting your intent in it, because again, they'll amplify that intention that you place in it. using a device like this or the tensor rings that we use. It just expands its field, its ability, its amplification. So we teach you how to do that. Crystals themselves without programming them, but again, just enhancing their abilities. Again, supplements. Also, finding out what area of your body needs to be cleansed, and then finding what herb or mineral or superfood is needed to then cleanse that area. Through frequency, through intention work. You become the creator because you get a greater understanding of how reality works. Okay? Medicinal herbs or herbs. Digestive enzymes, so you can write the intention note, put it in the sun ring, put your plate of food over it, so therefore it enhances your ability to then break down and absorb the food, so you get more sustenance from the food, the energy, the nutrients, vitamins and so on. So it's a wonderful system. So everything here in this reality is here because it's bound to consciousness. Its origin of everything is consciousness, okay? So we feed on consciousness. That's what we look for, okay? We can either be connected to our infinite reservoir of consciousness, which is energy. But if we're disconnected to that, and as I say, when we're brought into this world, we're immediately programmed to disconnect from that reservoir of that energy, that true identity is infinite consciousness, then we need to get consciousness elsewhere. And that's why we eat animals, we eat plants, we get it from all these areas. So let's look at that a bit more. So energies of sustenance of energy. Food is only one of them. Even though we're programmed and conditioned to think that was our main one, it's not. It's not. Okay? It's one of them. One of probably 15 to 20 of them. What are other sustenance of energy? The air that you breathe, water that you drink, the sun that you absorb, the energy from the sun that you absorb. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along. Exercise. Yeah, these are ones that are probably quite common to you. Let's get into ones that are not so common. Thought processes. How you see yourself. How you see your job. Do you like your job that you work in? Is it connected to your heart's desires or to the dreams that you've always wanted to achieve in your life in regards to a dream job? The colleagues or the people you work with at your job. Your family, your connection to family. Do you get along with your family members? Or is there a disconnect in regards to your family? You don't know your family, but that's something that you've always longed to want to connect to. You're in a relationship. Is it a relationship that you charge your energy with? Is a relationship that keeps breaking down and therefore is lowering your vibration? So you're leaking energy. And there's so many more. Okay, these are all areas where we either leak our energy or charge our energy with. Okay? And the scenario, the analogy I like to use is like a bucket. Okay? And we can top that bucket up with energy, right? Of all these areas, like eating or food or breathing in beautifully fresh air when we go into mountains or away from civilization or get ionizers to negatively ionize the air. Drinking good quality water, exercising, establishing a greater connection to self, and loving self instead of not liking self, getting into a job that is feeding your creative capabilities that you've always wanted to do as part of your life. Now, these are all things that you feed into that bucket to fill it up. But if you're in a relationship that is toxic, then it's like you're topping that bucket with energy, but there's a hole at the bottom of that bucket and it keeps leaking out. So you keep topping it all these things, but it won't save you because you've got a bucket that's got a hole at the bottom of it. Okay? This is where we've got to see the greater picture of things, right? So let's go into diets, because this is really interesting topic. Like just your conventional diet, people that are more into eating animal products or, meat eater, people that are vegan, Okay, people that are vegetarian, and you got raw foodism, and you got all these different diets, right? At the moment, currently, keto's really the in thing. There's the Atkins diet. Uh, all these different diets, right? Now, one thing I must say now, and I can't stress this more important, animals and plants are consciousness too. Okay? So, one thing that differentiates the way that we look at animals compared to plants, and this is really me looking at the veganism or vegetarian way of looking at things, is that we become very personal with animals because animals are like ourselves, they have a face to them, okay? Which makes them more, there's a more of a personal connection to that animal because they have a face like us, okay? They're more like us. And we can kind of get more, the way that we express ourselves is very much with our face, right? And also looking into our eyes, right? Very similar in regards to animals, okay? So we have a more of a personal connection with animals in that way, which is really is part of the conditioning of programming of becoming a human within duality, is that, okay? But when it comes to plants, even though they're a consciousness, we don't have necessarily as great a connection to them because a personal connection because they don't have a face, okay? But because of that, we kind of often forget they are a consciousness too, okay? We may be aware of the nutrients or the medicine that are within the plant kingdom, but we forget that they're a consciousness that's expressing itself like we do, like animals do. And actually, there's been studies to show that fungi have all the same neurotransmitters that we do. Neurotransmitters all to do with the brain and thinking. Right? So these are things that we forget about plants because, as I say, they don't have that personal connection like animals because they don't have a face. That's conditional programming again, but let's keep going. So when animals are slaughtered, okay, for our consumption, right, to eat that food, just like any form of consciousness, there is a rush of fear of impending doom that you are going to be harmed or killed, which is energy. Okay. Currently, a lot of people right now, with the way the world is, are in a lot of fear now too, and that's energy. Okay. We leak our energy through fear. Okay. But plants will also express this fear and impending doom as well. You might not be aware of it, but they do. Okay. For example, when you're pulling the roots out of the garden, let's go out to the garden. We're going to pull a carrot out of the garden. Okay. It expresses that. It's that fear or that situation. You might not be aware of it, but it does. Or if a lawnmower is going over mowing the grass, there is an energy transfer of impending doom or fear from that particular plant. Okay? Okay. But because the plants don't have a face or a personal connection to us, a lot of, especially people in the vegan, vegetarian community, think that's very cruel what we are doing to animals. And am I condoning slaughterhouses and the amount of animals we're killing and the way we're doing it? No, not at all. But we'll get to the true resolution to that as we go along in the video still, okay? They may see that as animals, but then at the same time, they're happy to do that to the plants or the plant kingdom. Do you see what I mean here? Okay. Now, relationship with our food is more important than the food we are actually eating. There's such an emphasis on, oh yeah, sugar's bad for you, or eggs are good for you for a while, then they're bad for you. And duality, right? Jump from one extreme to the other. But we forget about the relationship with our food, okay? that's why the ancients, right, when they had to kill an animal, right, for sustenance, or cultivate or harvest a plant, they blessed it. They gave gratitude to that animal. Thank you for sustaining me. Okay? And blessing that food, right? Because they're placing their intention on that substance, which has a effect, an energetic effect. It's an energetic transfer. Okay? So when you look at the broadcasting system, what are we doing? We're doing that, right? We're placing our intention to have an energetic effect on that thing that we're about to consume, or the thing that we need. That's our power. Yeah, that's what we can do. Okay. So a perfect example of this is, people that are really struggling on diet, right? Because diets essentially are remove the food you want to eat and you're eating foods that you don't want to eat, right? Which is not sustainable. And we'll talk about sustainability in a minute, but it creates conflict within you. Okay. Which gets you stuck in the mind, because what's the purpose of the mind? Mind is to lock you into duality. It's never going to work. Okay. And then people will all of a sudden reach out for the foods they don't want. Well, let's say it's a junk food of some sort, considered junk food. And then all of a sudden they get the guilt and the shame and they're like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Well, the food they're eating is not the problem. It's their intention they're placing on the food and the relationship of that food that is causing that energetic change within, on a chemical level, on a hormonal level, on a biological level, because it secretes cortisol, which then stops your digestive system from working. So therefore your ability to digest and assimilate the nutrients from that food, even if you think it's a junk food, is compromised. Okay. How can we improve that? Use of tensor rings and a lot of the subtle energy devices that I create and make here at Truly Holistic. Because again, what that does is it connects that substance to its higher aspect of itself. That's why we use it on ourselves. But as I say, all these things are consciousness, so they apply to those same principles. Okay? They allow you access to a greater spectrum of frequencies with whatever substance you're about to take in. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into is this Breatharian movement. Okay? And again, for a lot of people that may look very extreme, and am I encouraging you to do that? I just want to show you the validity of what is possible of that movement. So let's get into that. There's something to be learnt with this. Right, so with a Breatharian movement, people that say they're Breatharians are people that say that they do not eat food, and for a lot of them, they do not drink water. So you can see how that sounds very extreme, right? Let's discuss this a bit more. Why this is exciting? Because there's a few people that are doing this really well, that is showing what is possible. Okay. Now, what is one of the biggest concerns we have here on planet Earth from the perspective of a human is sustainability. Especially with, is there going to be enough food to sustain all the people that are on this planet? Okay. Because we have a reliance on food for our sustenance. Where through this Breatharian movement, they're finding there's other areas we can sustain our energy, but in a sustainable way that we're not going to destroy the planet. If you believe in that from a human perspective, okay? Really, the reality is for most of the population, we are overeating, but still at the same time lacking sustenance. Because again, coming back to the analogy of the bucket, we don't understand our true identity, and therefore all the facets, all the areas of our life is all sustenance of energy. We create these leaks of energy, these holes at the bottom of the bucket, and we think we need to just keep eating and eating and eating it, and it's going to sort it out. No. And a lot of the times, the reasons why we're eating more food is because we are leaking energy on one of those other areas of our life, like a bad relationship, or I'm not happy with myself, right? Or I'm not happy about my work, or whatever's going on. Emotional despair, right? It's not the food that's the problem. It's the reason why we then have that relationship with the food. That's the problem, right? Okay? So let's look at this. So a big problem with this is this lack of connection, right, to our true identity, that reservoir of being infinite consciousness, which means infinite energy, right? It's there waiting for you. You just need to know how to connect to it and therefore then use it. And that's what we teach here at Truly Holistic, okay? Now, so Breatharian movement, people that don't eat food and they don't drink water or very little, but they still know how to sustain themselves. There's something to be learnt there, right? Now, the ones that are doing it well, they just don't decide one day I'm going to go cold turkey and stop eating and stop drinking and I'm going to be fine. It's been a process a path for them that has gone on for years, sometimes decades to get to that point, okay? It's a process. They might have started off dropping off not eating animal products or animal foods, so therefore they're just going to a vegan or vegetarian diet. But then they also then drop off the plants or they get into intermittent fasting where they decide, okay, I'm only going to have one big meal a day. Rest of the day I'm just going to drink water and do other meditation and all these other practices. Now they are wise why they're wise is because they are becoming aware that they don't just need sustenance from food or water. There are other areas where I can get energy from. And also identify areas where I may be already leaking energy. Okay, that's a big one. Okay, because as I say, you could bring all these sources of energy in, but if there's a hole at the bottom of that bucket, it's not going to save you. You need to find out where you're leaking energy. Okay. So where do they get these energy from? What sources do they get the energy from if they're not getting it from food and water? They get it from absorbing the energy from the sun, getting on the skin, as much of their skin as possible. We've been conditioned and programmed to think that the sun's out there to kill us, to burn us to a crisp and get sunburnt. Okay? But doing it in a safe way, for sure. Sun gazing. Now, one thing we must remember about what sun gazing is looking directly in the sun. Now, I advise that you don't look at the sun directly unless it's the last disc or two on the horizon when the sun's is rising and when the sun is setting. That is the only time where it's safe to look directly at the sun. Okay? Now, this is powerful, especially when you are also grounded and barefooted to the earth at the same time. A lot of people swear by doing that to remove jet lag, where you're crossing so many timelines. Okay? It's a recalibration. We use that term a lot in the healing sessions at Truly Holistic. It's calibration. Okay, you're getting downloads, light downloads. Now, what is the sun symbolic for? Because what's the word? Well, the word sun in Latin is soul, S-O-L. So the sun is symbolic for you as a soul. So it enhances a greater connection to you as infinite consciousness, that reservoir of infinite energy. Wow, how about that? What else do? They meditate. Again, bring the awareness back to self, removing your place of attention from all this distraction that's trying to grab your attention. There's a universal law with your attention. Where you place your attention, you immediately consent your energy be directed to that thing to create more of it. So if it's distracting and say, oh, COVID, there's deaths there, or war here, deaths here, and destruction here, well, your attention is feeding that. You're placing your energy into feeding that, allowing that to remain as part of your reality. Okay? It is sacred where you place your attention. It is sacred because it's an investment of your energy. You need to ask where I'm placing my attention and hence where I'm investing my energy to go into. Is it somewhere where I'm going to get my energy back in so I'm going to charge my energy with that? Or am I giving up my energy for something I will not get anything back? So therefore, it's an area where I'm leaking energy. Very important. Okay? So meditation brings your awareness to self. So your direction, your energy goes back into the greatest investment of all, is you as a creative force. Okay. So again, creates a greater connection to that reservoir of you as infinite consciousness, infinite energy. Jumping in the ocean, as if you can, if you're by a coast, or jumping in a big natural body of water. That might be a lake, that might be a river. Especially with the oceans. The ocean contains every known mineral in the ocean. It's conductive. It's energetically conductive. Okay? It also grounds you, and we'll get to that a little bit more, and earths you. Now, when you jump into a large body of water, especially if the water's cold, what does it immediately do? All your worries disappear because it brings you to be more present. And what we do know about being present, what's the practice of meditation trying to do? Allow you to become more present, because you can then connect to that higher reservoir, that higher wisdom, that higher source of energy, infinite consciousness. Okay? Grounding earthing, okay? Which is when we take our shoes and socks off. We go barefoot on the earth. Where's the most nerve endings in your body? Soles of your feet. Wonder that. You're absorbing the negative ionization from the crust of the earth, which got that negative ionization from lightning hitting the crust of the earth all around the world. You absorb that energy in, negative ionization. Now, earthing, the earth is an expression of you. So again, the more we connect to the earth through earthing and grounding, the greater connection we connect to self. Again, connecting to that reservoir of infinite consciousness. Okay? And what's that way through? Heart. All the same letters that make up the word heart is all the same letters that make up the word earth. H at the start starts with the heart. H at the end of earth ends with the earth. Earth is an expression of your heart's desires. Okay? Being in nature. Okay? Being in nature. Okay, so what do all these things have in common? That these breatharians are doing it well, that's where they get their energy sustenance from. What do they have all in common? They all place you in your natural state, which is a being state. And what's the purpose of that being state? It connects you back to your true identity as infinite consciousness, not the human, as infinite consciousness, which is that reservoir of you as an infinite energy source. Right? When you do more of these practices, you'll realize the need for food lessens. And as I say, it's just little baby steps. These breatharians didn't get to that point just overnight. It was a process that took years and decades to get to. But what are they showing? The possibility of sustaining our energy in a natural way, where we don't have to extinguish all these materials which we think were causing sustainability problems. Right? It's the way forward. So we don't have to rely on getting our consciousness from animals, from plants, because we connect to our own. Cool way. So what I do want to summarize, obviously the Breatharian movement sounds really extreme, but what's it showing is to simplify things, right? It's just to simplify things. And to see that the core, the root, the origin of everything is energy. Because we are energy. Okay? But we've been programmed and conditioned to disconnect from that identity as infinite consciousness, therefore disconnect us from that reservoir that we've always got there, which is a reservoir of infinite energy. We just need awareness, we need to know how to connect to it, and therefore then we know how to use it. And we practice that here at Truly Holistic, and I can help you with that. So really I wish the Breatharian movement was called the consciousness movement, because it is. It's all based on consciousness, right? And the people who fail at that Breatharian movement is because they don't understand these concepts which we've described today. Okay, it's not just about stopping eating food. It's not about stopping drinking water. Okay? Which is really the same mentality a lot of people use in regards to starting on a diet. It does not work. Okay? So if you're wanting to learn more about this, you're wanting to learn about losing weight or creating a greater relationship with food, learning a little bit more about nutrition, learning a little bit more about me as an infinite energy source, where should I get my energy, how do I go about it, book an appointment at trulyholistic.net for either coaching or for a healing session. And also remember, please, like this video, subscribe to the channel, push the notification bell so you'll be aware of when new videos come out. Till next time, bye.